Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. I've got you guys an update on a major winter weather threat that we have brewing here for the central and eastern United States. We're talking about a very active pattern where we will have temperature flips. I've got all the details coming right up. Right, so thank you for joining me here on this Tuesday evening. We have a lot to talk about in this video. We're going to go over all the latest details on a pretty significant winter storm that we are expecting to move into the Northeast Wednesday night into Thursday, as well as a pretty substantial threat from the models for a possible upcoming snowstorm into February. I've got all the details coming right up. So thank you for joining me here. We're going to take a look here at your current radar. So starting out here, you can take a look across sections of the western United States. You can see a large swath here of precipitation stretching all the way from the coastal areas of California all the way up into sections of Montana and northern Idaho. We're starting to see a lot of that heavy rainfall, a lot of that heavy snowfall. And I believe we even did see a considerable severe thunderstorm warning in California that was warned for 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So some isolated damaging wind gusts associated with these thunderstorms are possible. And you can even see some of those shades of red. All right, that is thunderstorm activity. So just be aware of that possible severe threat as we continue tonight. Okay, nothing you need to worry about. Just make sure you are, keeping an eye on the winds with that, because there is a chance to see some relatively strong to possibly damaging winds, as we did see a lot of that action earlier today. But for the most part, things should start to calm down as we go into the overnight hours of tonight. Okay, for the rest of the United States, you can see a couple stray showers. I think these are mostly snow showers, as it is pretty much cold enough for some snowfall out in this region here. You can see all even some lake effect snow across the Finger Lakes of upstate New York out in there in central New York State. So definitely watch out for some brief visibility drops, but really nothing too crazy other than that. All right, so moving on here to your alerts, you can see we have a lot going on right now. We'll start out here in the northwest United States. Okay, this is our major storm system moving in. You can see a lot of counties currently in this pink shade. We have winter storm warnings stretching from sections of northern Montana into northern Idaho, sections of southern Oregon, into sections of Northern California. There are also those, mountainous regions, those Sierra Mountains. All right, that's where we have the winter storm warnings. We're expecting feet of mountain snow, and even some of those lower lying areas, we could definitely see a couple inches, as we do see some of those in that purple shade, some of those winter weather advisories. Okay, you can see in this tan shade, we have wind advisories going out for sections of Nevada, sections of Utah, and in portions of California, especially along the coastline there. Also, another area you need to watch out for some gusty winds, okay? Some associated with those thunderstorms, but also just, all together with this storm, it's going to be packing some gusty winds, so just be aware of possible tree damage. And just that, as you're going through your commute, that there could be some isolated travel disruptions with that. All right. Shift your attention here to the Midwest United States. You can see across sections of northern Illinois into sections of southern Iowa and northern Missouri. We do have also still some winter weather advisories. As that next storm system starts to gear up as it moves into the eastern United States, that will start out by bringing some freezing rain and snow to sections of the Midwest as it moves into the Northeast. And then finally, you can see we also already do have ice storm warnings going out for sections of far eastern West Virginia there into sections of southeastern Pennsylvania. All right, this is where we're expecting pretty major and significant ice accumulations. That does also include in a couple counties out there in far western Maryland. All right, but this is definitely going to cause some major problems. We'll talk about ice accumulations later, but you can see all along the I-95 corridor and, the Northeast here, we have winter weather advisories as well. Okay, for some areas that we'll see snow, freezing rain, and, we'll kind of just see a mix of everything in between there. So sleet, freezing rains, and snow will all be in play for folks along the I-95 corridor and portions of the interior Northeast as we get into late tomorrow night and into Thursday. And then finally across the deep south here, the Gulf Coast, we do also still have some dense fog advisories. That has been very, very foggy recently. We've been talking about very low visibility, definitely across Florida there. So just make sure that you're being aware of, with very low visibility, make sure you're turning on your headlights on your car so you can definitely see, more clearly, and take it slow on those roadways, as that visibility will once again be dropping pretty significantly. All right, so we're gonna start out here by taking a look at the Northeast. We're gonna look at the NAM 3K models. So we're just going to be looking at kind of the outlook for upcoming winter storms. So here we come. All right, we're getting to the 5th, so this is going to be tomorrow. Tomorrow night, this is when the storm is going to start to move in. Look at already what's going on here across sections of Ohio, Indiana, West Virginia, and Virginia. Starting out as a mix of either heavy rainfall, isolated pockets of heavy rainfall, or heavy freezing rain. This will accumulate very, very quickly. All right, this is around our warm sector, so basically we have enough moisture up in the atmosphere that you're going to get a lot of this heavy precipitation. So if this does accumulate, all right, you're going to have major problems across this area here if you're going to start out as all, freezing rain. All right, and so we continue to play this through, and you can see the storm's not going to start out too significant. It's going to be very isolated pockets of, freezing rain, sleet, and even some rain. But really, all the action begins to occur really during the middle of the night, where you can see south of this high pressure. All right, we have an area of sleet, freezing rain, and rain across sections of New Jersey into portions of Pennsylvania and the Delmarva region. And you can see that also does stretch into sections of Virginia and into West Virginia there. So still hang on to some of that freezing rain out in those regions. All right, and so we continue this into the very early morning hours of tomorrow, and the storm kind of completely evolves, and you're waking up on Thursday to very heavy amounts of precipitation, especially over like the eastern PA, Philadelphia region here. You can see south of there, we're seeing almost some pockets of heavy rain, possible even some thunderstorms. I think it's definitely possible, maybe some rumbles of thunder. I think it is possible just with the amount of warm air we have across sections of Virginia, West Virginia, southern Delmarva. No severe weather, nothing like that. We have absolutely no cave. Storm mode will be horrendous, but definitely some possible lightning, some thunder with that. But I mean, farther north, you're talking about a very messy, wintry mix for sections of, Long Island, southern New England, New York City, Philadelphia, New Jersey. A lot of these populated areas will definitely, struggle with mixing issues, but this will definitely be quite an impactful storm. You can see bands of very heavy freezing rain and sleet starting to move their way into PA and northern New Jersey. And then you can see the storm continues to move out as we get into the later morning hours of Thursday, and you can see some of that snow does start to spread out, and eventually that does all get all the way up into New York State. And that does start to get much heavier. And the NAM actually does want this storm to start to produce very heavy snowfall across sections of coastal Massachusetts, in Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York, and then even still some sleet and freezing rain back down into southern New England, which I think that really, if you're anywhere in, let me circle the area, if you're anywhere in this region, okay, you need to be on the lookout for freezing rain, because it doesn't even matter if you're in a ice storm warning or not. Even if you're in a winter weather advisory, you need to be aware of possible ice accumulation, because obviously, just a glaze to, just a tenth of an inch of ice can be enough to start, having your car slide. So a lot of that is going to cause pretty significant travel disruptions, and then that storm kind of moves on out and does produce some heavy rainfall across sections of Maine and into Atlantic Canada and Nova Scotia there, all right? So once again, this is going to start out as a very nasty mix, wintry mix for sections of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York State. As that moves into New England, that will likely kind of transition over to snow, and most of the storm will be producing heavy snow at this point as we get into the afternoon hours of Thursday. Okay, but as you wake up on Thursday morning, you're going to be waking up to heavy, freezing rain, sleet, and rain and snow across this area. So a lot to watch out for. Right, but a lot of different forms of precipitation are expected to fall within the system. So we bring this over to totals. We're going to use the HRRR because it's a little bit more of a reliable model for this kind of stuff. So I'm going to tell you right now, high-res models never do well with forecasting ice accumulations. Now, this is not official ice accumulation forecasts. Basically, what we're going to take from this is that the highest areas of ice accumulation we see here is basically where we see the highest signal for significant ice accumulation. So you start out here, take a look at sections of Ohio. That's that signal that we also saw from the NAM. Okay, somewhere across Ohio, we could definitely start to see areas of over a glaze, maybe even closer to 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of ice here. You can see a little bit of a streak of pink here. That's at least a tenth of an inch of ice. So a little bit of ice accumulation showing up there. That's about minor to moderate ice accumulations. But look at this in southern Pennsylvania. Okay, we're almost getting into half an inch of ice. Now that is not, once again, this is not a forecast, but that right there is a big signal for ice accumulations on the on the HRRR here, and you can also see even into very far western and interior Maryland. Obviously, we're not going to see an inch of ice accumulation, but some of these areas are expected to see close to a quarter of an inch, maybe even close to half an inch of ice accumulation. So, this is a very, very strong signal that we're seeing here. This is exactly for those areas that are currently under ice storm warnings. Okay, you see these areas in purple; those are very, very deep areas of ice accumulation. So the HRRR is really pinpointing far western Maryland into southern southeastern Pennsylvania, and then into sections of northern Virginia and West Virginia. Right into here is where we could definitely end up seeing the highest ice accumulation, and even just a small a little glaze to a possible tenth to an inch. A tenth of an inch is definitely possible across sections of eastern PA and northern New Jersey if we do see enough of that banding of freezing rain, enough of that heavier precipitation to fall. But definitely a significant ice storm expected. I do think also some more counties will be upgraded to ice storm warnings by the end of this video. Or it could possibly be upgraded to ice storm warnings by the end of this video, but probably by tomorrow morning we'll start to see more of those counties be included in the ice storm warnings. All right, so you move over here to your snow totals predicted by the HRRR. Now this is definitely going to be a little bit more of a reliable model to look at. Now this does include sleet, I believe, so you gotta kind of put that in the back of your mind here. But this the HRRR is going for a solid 2 to 4 inches across sections of eastern PA, central PA, into New Jersey. I think this is slightly overdone, but it is going for a possible area of more like 3 to 6 inches in central New Jersey, which I think is a possibility, but it's very unlikely depending on how quickly we see that turn over to snow. Really, what the HRRR wants is everything to kind of turn back over to snow much quicker than the NAM. So that's why you see the less totals over here into coastal New England, and more snow, more higher totals over here in southern New England. All right, so there's two possibilities with this storm. Okay, but I do think that in this area we will likely see the highest snow totals with this, and then Long Island, New York City, probably about 1 to 2 inches is possible. Same thing for Connecticut. I do think Massachusetts is going to be a very big. It's a big question mark. I think that you guys could see anywhere from 1 to 2 inches to maybe in as high as 4 to 6 inches. But I would really watch out for this area in particular. I think this area could definitely overperform compared to what we're seeing here on the HRRR. But for now, the HRRR is painting more of a 1 to 2 scenario. But I think definitely, once again, a pocket of 3 to 6, 4 to 6 inches of snow is possible if we do see that transition to snow a little bit later within kind of just the whole duration of the storm. Upstate New York, far upstate, just about a foot into an inch, maybe closer to 2 inches for some of these areas. Right? It really depends on how much banding we see set up here, but that's the current forecast. Also, the storm is not done at the end of this model run for sections of Massachusetts here, so there will be more snowfall with this, but still much less than the NAM. And you can actually look at the NAM. Now, this could also be overdone slightly. All right, but if you take a look, if this can load for me, that'd be great. All right, you'll see the higher totals across sections of Massachusetts, and that's just because the NAM wants the transition to snow to happen a little bit later, so that the heaviest snow will fall directly on coastal Massachusetts. So I don't know if this is going to load up for us because my Wi-Fi has been pretty terrible recently, but it's alright if this doesn't load. But there we go. All right, so 1 second. So yeah, you can see a little bit more of a heavier signal across Massachusetts. Really, still not that much, but you can see, far to the east you go, the higher the totals you get. Look at southern New England, barely struggling to get over an inch of accumulation here. This is certainly a possibility. Still a pretty minor event for you guys. I think 2 to 4 inches is possible, but really the farther east you go, the higher totals. So really, I'd say I would take that back. 36 inches, I'd say, is pretty much out of scenario. But I do think definitely a pocket, that jackpot area would be somewhere getting 2 to 4 inches in this region. All right. I think really 1 to 2 is what is the forecast you're going to be going for if you're in northern Mass, into Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York, and into sections of Maine. All right. So we're going to be moving on to the GFS. We're going to compare the GFS and the European model because I do want to take a look at our upcoming pattern, as we are talking about some pretty major storm systems that are possible as we get into February. So we'll start out with the GFS here. I will say the signal has been screaming for a major storm system. So here you go. That's your freezing rain, snow, and sleet starting to move into the northeast. I apologize for that little glitch there. That was the overnight run starting to load in here. So if we can get back to the 18Z, all right, you'll see that we do start to see, kind of that storm system move in. So just give me 1 second, everybody. So yeah, going back to the GFS here, apologize about that. You can see, once again that storm system kind of moving in through the northeast, and now we get to about the later end of the week. We are watching a possibility of another storm system moving through. Okay, this is around the 8th. So this is this weekend. Okay, we do get a low pressure system to ride through the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes region. This does produce some pretty widespread heavy snow across sections of Wisconsin and into Michigan, and then a little bit of freezing rain along that median line there. All right around where that 540 line and where that warm front meets. And then it kind of moves into the northeast and continues to produce some moderate to heavy snowfall. Definitely could bring a couple inches of snow if this happens. Okay, this is not too far out. We're eyeing a possibility for this to actually happen over the weekend, so we'll definitely have to watch out for a possible winter storm threat. Okay, this is subject to change, but I definitely do think that this area needs to be prepared for a possible couple inches of snow during this weekend. Once we get more information as we get closer to this event, we'll obviously keep you guys posted. But that is definitely something to keep our eyes on. And then behind it, from the 10th to the 13th, there's another storm system we're watching, and here it comes on the GFS. Okay, you get a low to pop up very far south, and you're probably thinking, well, there's a lot of cold air nearby. Okay, you've got a pretty nice moisture surge, and you've got a low pressure very far south. I think we're gearing up for a pretty good East Coast snowstorm, and the thing is that this trough is very, very flat. So basically, this is going to have a hard time to kind of, bring on a negative tilt and move up the East Coast like a traditional nor'easter. Okay, this is more or less going to stay as a weaker storm system and going to rely heavily on basically this ridge that we're seeing here kind of come up through with this low pressure. So that low pressure is going to be right there, and it's basically going to be moving up like this. And so anybody north of the ridge is definitely going to stay as snowfall. So that's exactly what we see here. And you can see we play this out, still sticking to a very, very weak scenario here, only 1,007 millibars. But you do get enough moisture to see some of that snowfall. And we do get heavy snow and freezing rain to break out across sections of Delmarva, Northern Virginia, PA, and eventually Southern New England there. And that does start to spread out as the low does eventually weaken. All right, and then on the backside, you get a lot of cold air to kind of filter through here, and you're kind of left with a pretty major Arctic blast. But that you could definitely say is a pretty major storm system, and that will be a big one for like DC, Philly, maybe even up to New York City here. A large swath of heavy snowfall. Okay, this is about a week out from tomorrow, so very far out. We're not forecasting. This is 174 hours out, so not a forecast, but I will say the signal is there for a pretty major winter storm. And, we've already looked at two possible scenarios. Okay, so really, this whole area needs to be on the lookout for a possible, significant winter storm between now and the next, 1.5 to 2 weeks into the future. Now, it's pretty far out, but we're just saying that because it's a pretty decent signal. But okay, this is getting very far out, but if you look at the end of the run, you can see more of this thing where you just get more kind of pieces of energy to fly through that do connect eventually and produce some of that snowfall over these regions. All right, you look at the afternoon run, and it's the same. It does still show that scenario. Now, look, this does show a little bit more of a farther south riding low. That's a possibility, and that would be a stronger scenario. So that would be obviously a possibility of a nor'easter. Now, I think the chances for that happening are relatively low. I think we're probably going to see that low pressure kind of ride through the southern United States rather than all the way down into the Gulf Coast. All right, but we'll see, obviously. But you look at the European model for this. All right, this is the 12Z from today. You can see here comes our winter storm that does its thing over the northeast. Now, here comes our next storm that we're watching for the weekend. It does also show the same thing. All right, this is once again only just over 100 hours out. You can see a little bit of that moderate to heavy snowfall breaking across sections of the Great Lakes. All right, that does produce some rainfall over portions of the Ohio Valley, and then eventually you do get some heavy snow and sleet and freezing rain once again in the northeast. So another horrible mess there. of a wintry mix precipitation, and this does end up producing a little bit more heavier snowfall across sections of like Massachusetts and New England. There, that will definitely be a possibility to watch, especially over the weekend. And then we're left with the same exact setup as the GFS had. So we have model agreement over 150 hours out, so that's pretty good to see here. Pretty solid, hold that the models have. Usually they go kind of bonkers, and the GFS was doing that. The European, the GFS were spitting out pretty wild scenarios, but it just happened today where we finally kind of see them lock into place on this one, exact scenario where we get a low pressure system to ride through the midsection of the country, through the lower 48, and this does end up producing heavy snowfall over sections of the northeast of New England and maybe as far south as the mid Atlantic. Now, the European wants a little bit more of a farther northern riding storm, so that would bring I 95 a much bigger snow opportunity. All right, but once again, this is a week out from tomorrow. All right, we see a lot of that freezing rain across sections of Delmarva, Virginia, and that low pressure system moves through. I think the signal is there, and I think that in just a couple of days, if we get a little bit of a better hold, we can start talking about potential snow totals with that, as well as our upcoming storm system that will bring snow across the Great Lakes this weekend. All right, so that's two major storm systems that you have to watch out for snowfall. And then here comes a third behind our one that just went through, producing that heavy snowfall a week out. Okay, this is over a week out. So, once again, not a forecast. This is a forecast, but there's another signal for a possible winter storm after that. Okay, at this point, we're just talking about how active the European wants the weather to be, and then really after this is kind of no man's land here. You see more of the same with just once again more storm systems to fly through. I mean, that is like 5 storm systems in one run, and they all produce snow over this region. So once again, the GFS and European model both agree that this area needs to be on the lookout between now and the next week and a half or so, for definitely a potential for seeing some pretty significant snowfall. All right, and then finally, I do want to take a look at this is the GFS ensemble for your snow totals. Okay, this is not a forecast. This is just a signal. This has been one of the most incredibly, big. This has been one of the most incredible signals for snow on the ensemble runs that many of us in the weather community have seen in years. The GFS ensemble, which is all the members put together, as an average, show 18 plus inches of snow all the way through the Northeast, the coastal regions, and the interior Northeast. Okay, that is a massive signal. That is a huge signal for snowfall, and it's all across this entire area. This is the area I was watching, and this is exactly what we're seeing here. Between now and the next 384 hours, it wants, a lot of snowfall to fall in this region. Wherever you see the purples, pinks, and even these reds, okay, that is where you could say above average snowfall. 18 inches is not a precise forecast, all right, but this is definitely showing us that we have a major signal for snow, as well as the west coast here. You can see a lot of those upper elevations getting in on a lot of that snowfall with above average snowfall showing up here in portions of California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington State, and into sections of Idaho. So the signal is there, not a forecast, but these are very, very high totals for what an ensemble model would show, and we'll definitely have to watch this. But that's kind of showing you that the European, the GFS, and the GFS ensemble all are showing very, very high chances of seeing significant snowfall. And then finally, for the last part of the update, I do quickly want to take a look at our temperature anomalies just to show you what these temperature swings will look like. Okay, there's your little ridge, kind of bring all that moisture up into the region. But look at how much cold air we have constantly diving into the United States. I mean, we have multiple rounds of cold air, and you look at this on a kind of wider view. Let's look at North America here. All right, I don't know if that's gonna load, but you can see just kind of all that cold air coming down from the polar vortex. That's our cold air source, and this is all going to be feeding into the northern United States. All right, you're gonna get a pretty decent ridge because you're gonna have to get that low pressure system to move through with that moisture, but you're gonna get constant southward diving cold air that will kind of change all that precipitation over to snowfall for the northern areas, northern region of the United States. All right, so that's all I got for you guys. Thank you for coming to watch. I will see you guys in the next video. So thank you for tuning out. I mean, it's been a A little bit of a long time since I last posted a video, but we'll get back to the swing of things. You know, we got a sickness running through my house, and we also did just get off on vacation. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I did get a custom sweatshirt for myself. I don't know if you guys can see the logo, but here it is. Got my logo on the sweatshirt, so I'll be wearing this to National Storm Chaser Summit, which is in about 1 week from tomorrow, so very excited for that. But that's going to be another thing that I have to talk about because that will be very, very busy. That will likely prevent me from making weather forecasts, so very, very busy. But we'll get the job done and we'll manage as we get through this pretty active stretch of weather and as my schedule gets more active. So once again, I appreciate all for coming to watch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.